Well, the worst case scenario happened on Wednesday. The Mets series against the Braves has been washed out. They got completely screwed by Major League Baseball and the Braves. I'll explain why in the show, and then we'll try to pick up the pieces. What will it take for the Mets to make the playoffs? How will all of this play out? I'll break down all of the many, many different scenarios on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. This episode is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.the, the right state can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. I want to start off the show today with a little bit of an apology for not taking the weather seriously enough on yesterday's show, and I have a reason for that. A couple years ago, 2022, there was a hurricane coming, as we did talk about on yesterday's show, and I made a very impassioned case on this show and in written form for Major League Baseball to be proactive and move the series. And I looked like an absolute idiot as I was firing off all these tweets and I was coming at people and I was saying, this is unbelievable. I can't believe Major League Baseball is not doing anything. Why are the Braves not doing anything? This is unfair. And I screamed to the mountaintops and nobody heard me. I didn't want to do that again. And I thought, well, I looked stupid last time because it was 3 beautiful nights. Not beautiful for the Mets, but they played 3 games in Atlanta without any issue, and the series went on, and Major League Baseball dodged a bullet. And I think what happened in this instance is they leaned back into that experience, and they said, oh, this is going to work itself out. And they didn't take it seriously, and we're going to rail against the Braves for a second, but this is Major League Baseball's fault more than anything. I was pissed at the Braves today, and I still will hold on to that because I think the Braves were valuing the wrong thing here. They were, I guess maybe not. It depends on your perspective. The Braves made the best decision for themselves to make sure that they would have their best possible chance to make the playoffs as the team that's behind in the race. But in doing so, they essentially ducked the Mets this week. That's what they did. They thought it was more important to make sure they kept their home field advantage, and so they did not approach any more proactive solutions to solving this issue that was heading their way. So they said, all right, we'll see what happens. The forecast can change. We don't want to mess up our pitching to start the series on Monday to play a doubleheader on Tuesday. So let's just let it play out because worst case scenario, we're home. They're going to be riding out a hurricane, and the Royals, who knows when they get into town, they might have to play a doubleheader on Saturday or Sunday for all we know, but they're just going to be home the whole time. The Mets are the one that are through this logistical nightmare, and I feel like I maybe haven't even said it yet because I've just been rattling all this stuff off, but for those of you who aren't aware of what happened, again, these games got rained out, and so now what this means is the Mets have to travel to Milwaukee. Apparently, they're going to head out on Thursday morning. Hopefully, they can get there safely with no issue on their travel schedule. But after that, after heading to Milwaukee, they're going to play a 3-game series, and then they're going to have to come right back around to Atlanta if the games matter and play a doubleheader on Monday before a wild card round that's scheduled on Tuesday. And we'll talk about it later. Major League Baseball needs to be proactive finally, or retroactive, whatever it is. They need to push back the National League playoffs because they messed this up so bad. They have to move it back a day because that will give all 3 of these teams on the bubble, the Mets, the Braves, the Diamondbacks, whichever 2 get in, a fair shot in that wild card round where they would get a day to travel and actually set up some form of pitching. But we'll see if they even do that. Here's why it's annoying from the MLB perspective that they didn't do anything. Because they weren't proactive and they didn't force the Braves' hand and say, no, you guys got to play games on Monday in Atlanta. because you have a mutual off day. It's right there in front of you. I don't care who pitches. 2 bullpen games. Call up a kid from AAA, both of you. Doesn't matter. There's a storm coming. You can play a game on Monday. You can play a game on Tuesday, and hopefully get your game in on Wednesday. And then at least if that was the case, you're only looking at one game, which would be much less consequential. There's a much greater chance that that one game is not as significant. It doesn't matter as much, where it might not have to have been played, or if you do have to play it, it's just one game on the following Monday. So either they should have forced the Braves' hands to play a game on Monday or to play a doubleheader on Tuesday, or both, and then they could have just gotten the series out of the way. The other option would have been to force the Braves' hands and move them to a neutral site. And if anything, that could have even happened today. Is there not any stadium out there that they could have done this for? I'm pretty sure the Brewers aren't even in Milwaukee. Now, this would have been much more favorable to the Mets than the Braves. I get it. But yeah, the Brewers were not in Milwaukee. They're still in Pittsburgh tomorrow. So, or today, as you guys are listening to this on Thursday. So if they wanted to, they could have said, you know what, guys, Wednesday morning, this isn't looking good. We're not doing this. We're not going to have the entire season put on hold. We're going to, the Braves, you got to travel to Milwaukee. Mets, you're already going to be there. And the Braves, you have a home game in Milwaukee. It's a homecoming. It's beautiful. They got some Brave stuff out there, don't they? And you play a doubleheader on Thursday in Milwaukee, or you play a game at least, whatever it is. But Major League Baseball has sat on their hands and said, we're going to leave it up to the Braves. It's their decision. It's their gate. They don't want to lose their gate. But more importantly, they didn't want to lose their home field advantage. The Atlanta Braves are 10 games over 500 when they play at home. They're 5 games over 500 on the road. It is a huge advantage for them to play at home. Not to mention, again, they didn't want to mess up their pitching. They have Chris Sale last time out. He had a decline in velocity. So now you give Sale some extra days. Now you give Fried some extra days. Now those guys won't be available to pitch against the Mets, but they're going to pitch against the Royals. So now all of a sudden, the Braves have a better chance to beat the Royals to at least set up that situation where they need the doubleheader, or where they get to play the doubleheader to try to knock the Mets off, or if the Mets handle their own business and the Diamondbacks don't, maybe it's catching the D-backs. We'll see. But it is so frustrating that this happened, because now if you do make the playoffs, I mean, you're not going to be able to start your Chaminade game 1. You're going to be exhausted. They talked about it with Carlos Mendoza, about how the Mets had that crazy travel schedule where they had to go to St. Louis to make it the game, and they were traveling East Coast, West Coast. He's like, yeah, we've been prepared for it. Sure, they've been prepared for it. They've done it. But do you guys remember how that stretch went for the Mets? They were so tired by the end of it, they got swept by the Mariners, a team that is going to miss the playoffs, a team that was horrible after that series against the Mets. Now, great. Did they play great baseball in that one set? Of course the Mariners did. We all watched it. Really good pitching. Their bats came alive. It is what it is. But if the New York Mets are a rested team that didn't go east-west all over the place, maybe they put up a better fight in that series. Now you're asking them to go and play in Milwaukee, head back to Atlanta, and then maybe go to San Diego and play the next day after a doubleheader? How is that fair? This might be the ultimate test, because everyone has been talking about this new playoff format, right? Now it's unfair that these wild card teams get to ride momentum while the teams that had buys have to wait. Well, I'll tell you what, maybe the Mets have the most momentum ever, because maybe they had to play 2 extra games, or not extra, but 2 games leading into the playoffs, and they just roll from there. The funny thing to me is the Braves are the ones that have complained the most about that format. The front-running Braves, who just can't win an NLDS. It's not that the Phillies just smacked them a couple years in a row. It's not that. No. It's because they were too rested. That's why they couldn't hit. It's not the Phillies pitching that shut them down. Well, guess what? Now you got 4 days off. You got what you wanted. Here's 4 days off, or you got what you didn't want in the playoffs, but now you wanted it because you could have done something different. You could have played a game on Monday. You could have played a doubleheader on Tuesday. You could have even tried to get a day game in on, maybe play at 11 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday with no fans. Who cares? Get the games in. They didn't do that. They wanted their gate. They wanted their cake. They wanted to eat it too. They wanted to have their home field advantage. They said, yeah, we'll just see. Hurricane barreling down, whatever. And Major League Baseball said, okay, that's what you want to do? Fine. There was another series, Tigers and Rays, I believe in Tampa. They moved the game up because why? Tampa didn't care about their gate. They're out of it. And the Tigers wanted to make sure they got the game in. So they moved the game up ahead of the storm. They got it in. But in this instance, Major League Baseball just catered to the Braves. You guys make your decision. Oh, okay, it's fine. Carlos Mendoza said he had not heard from an MLB official until the game was canceled. Now, maybe David Stearns did, but they didn't even broach the idea of a neutral site. Didn't even think about that. And if you're not going to do that, again, to have not played a doubleheader on Tuesday or a game on Monday, it was just asking for issues. And now I feel justified that I railed about this 2 years ago because the Braves and Major League Baseball got lucky that time. This time, not so lucky. And hopefully, Major League Baseball will learn from this. And then next time two teams are put in this situation, they will be proactive and they will tell a team like the Braves, hey, you're being really stupid. We don't want to ruin this for every single team in this wild card race. We don't want to ruin this for fan bases, for traveling, the logistics for everybody. You're trying to sell a wild card series, and you're not going to know potentially until 10 o'clock the day before the game who's going to be playing who and where. You will know. And so what we're going to do next here is I'm going to try to calm down over an ad break, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you all the different scenarios, and I'm going to completely twist your mind to a pretzel trying to figure out what's going to happen. But seriously, I am going to try to lay this out. It is confusing, but I have looked at this from all different angles. So I'm going to break down every scenario that could unfold this weekend and how it would impact the potential of playing the doubleheader and what that doubleheader might mean to the Mets. So we're going to go through all of it in just a minute. First, though, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends. Become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You could turn $10 into $1,000. And if you look at the NFL slate this weekend, maybe you like Tyreek Hill on yards. You go more there. Maybe you're into Malik Neighbors on Thursday Night Football. You can take more yards there. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly when you play 5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Stay up to date with all the latest in the world of sports when you check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube today, do me a favor, hit that red subscribe button. The goal is to get to 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so I appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. All right, so let's discuss this from all angles, and we're going to start with the Diamondbacks side of things. The easiest way that this whole thing goes down, the Mets and the Braves win this weekend, the Diamondbacks lose, the Mets and the Braves are in the playoffs, and all that doubleheader would matter for is seeding, and Major League Baseball comes to the decision that it's not worth it to deal with that, and whatever the final records are by the end of the weekend, let's say the Mets have 90 wins, the Braves have 89, the Diamondbacks have 88. That is the final standings. Mets are the 5 seed, Braves are the 6 seed, and they go from there. Or if the Mets and Braves are tied, okay, Braves, you have the season series. You take the tiebreaker, and we just move on. That would be the easiest situation. But the Diamondbacks won on Wednesday night, so that made things a little more complicated. They're now at 88 and 71. The Padres lost, and that was important because they still have a chance in the division, the NL West. They have the tiebreaker over the Dodgers. They're playing head-to-head. They had it, so they were 2 games back. Had they swept this series, they would have taken the lead in the NL West. Now that the Dodgers won a game, they are inching closer to clinching. Their magic number is now 2. If they beat the Padres will have nothing left to play for. Outside of the first round, hosting the playoff series, but even then, one win gets them there. The point is, you want the Padres to win on Thursday because you want them engaged as much as possible in this final weekend to try to catch the Dodgers. And if they're able to win, the Dodgers' magic number stays at 2. So even if the Dodgers win their first game against the Rockies, the Padres might win their first one, and they would still go into the following game mathematically in it. The Dodgers would only have to win 2 games, and they would clinch, but it just keeps the Padres engaged longer. Otherwise, again, they got nothing to play for. Doesn't mean that your B squad or whatever it is won't beat the Diamondbacks anyway, but if the Padres lose their series to the Dodgers, they have no hopes at clinching in the playoff bye. They can just phone it in, and the Diamondbacks could win a bunch of games this weekend. If the Diamondbacks win out and they sweep the Padres, they will make the playoffs. They'll be at 91-71. Okay. So to understand all of this, the Mets and the Braves have the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks. So if the two of them can meet the Diamondbacks in their win total by the end of this weekend, you don't have to play a doubleheader. Diamondbacks are out. But if the Diamondbacks win all 3 games, they're at 91-71. If the Mets sweep their series, they're at 90 wins. If the Braves sweep their series, they're at 89 wins. In this case scenario, you cannot have 3 91 wins teams because there will be a doubleheader played. If the Mets win 1 game, Braves are out. They'd be at 91 wins, and they would actually have the tiebreaker over Arizona. If the Braves swept the doubleheader, the Mets would be stuck at 90 wins. They would be out. So in that case scenario, if everybody wins every game this weekend, the Mets would still have to win one of the games in the doubleheader. The Braves would have to sweep it. Okay. All right. Now let's get to the next scenario. If the Diamondbacks win the series this weekend, but they still lose a game, they'll be sitting at 90 wins. If the Mets sweep the Brewers, they'd clinch because they have the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks. Now, they would still have to play the final series if the Braves are close enough to catch the Diamondbacks. So the Braves would have to be within 2 games of Arizona. Again, the Braves have that tiebreaker. So that would force the Mets to play the Braves, where 1 win would knock the Braves out of the playoffs. But if the Braves swept the doubleheader, that would mean nothing to the Mets. Then the Braves would make the playoffs. The Diamondbacks would not. All right, now let's say the Diamondbacks get to 89 wins. So they win 1 game in that series. Or we'll just actually do them both together because, again, it's the same thing I said before. Or if the Diamondbacks get swept and they're stuck at 88 wins. If the Mets and Braves can meet them in that win total, so if it's 89 wins, the Mets got to win 2 games. The Braves would have to sweep. If the Diamondbacks don't win again, the Braves would still have to win their series against the Royals, and the Mets would just have to win 1 game. Then they're good. No one has to play on Monday. So that sort of wraps up the Diamondback side of things. Okay. Now let's talk about just Mets Braves. So let's sort of put the Diamondbacks aside. If the Mets sweep the Brewers, the Braves have to win at least 2 games to make the doubleheader matter on their end. So here's another way the Mets can get in, right? They sweep the Brewers and the Braves lose their series. Well, now the Braves can't catch the Mets. The magic number is still 5. So any combination of 3 Mets wins and 2 Braves losses, and the Braves are out. I think so. Hold on. The Braves are out. See, this is why this stuff is so confusing. The Braves would not be able to pass up the Mets in that case scenario, but they still could catch the Diamondbacks because they're sitting at 86 wins. So the Mets would still have to play a doubleheader. It just wouldn't matter for them. All right, now let's say the Mets beat the Brewers 2-1. The Braves would have to get swept for that doubleheader not to matter to the Mets. And then the Diamondback side of it is a whole other story that we just went through. But again, if the Mets beat the Brewers, Braves get swept by the Royals, the Mets are in the playoffs. Magic number is 5. So that's how you have to look at it as far as the Mets-Braves side of things. If the Mets lose their series to the Brewers, they will have to play the Braves to get in. They'll have to. because they would only be at 88 wins. The only way that they could lose their series to the Brewers and still get in is if the Diamondbacks got swept. Only way. Otherwise, they're going to have to play the Braves in that series. If the Mets get swept, the Braves could sweep their series, but the Mets then all of a sudden would have that doubleheader as their saving grace. So if the Mets are stuck at 87 wins this whole weekend, the Braves sweep the Royals, they're at 89 wins. The Mets still can make the playoffs by sweeping the Braves in that doubleheader, grabbing the tiebreaker back, and you bounce them. So what that means, the one positive side of all of this, the New York Mets will not be eliminated from playoff contention until Monday. So they're going to get to that series in Atlanta regardless, unless both of these teams are in, it doesn't matter. Or if the Mets and Diamondbacks are clearly in and the Braves can't catch up to either team. All right, I think that covers all of it. I know it's super confusing. With each passing game this weekend, the math will get a little bit easier. The Mets win on Friday, the Diamondbacks and Braves lose. Well, now we can speak with a little more clarity on what might happen, and it's going to keep going like that. What the Mets have to focus on more than anything else is the series that's in front of them. They now have had a couple days off. They'll have, of course, Thursday off. They just had Wednesday off, although probably wasn't seen as an off day from the players that were at a ballpark that had no hope of playing a baseball game for no apparent reason. But the pitchers didn't throw. You set yourself up for a series against Milwaukee. And if you win all 3 games, you have a very good chance of making that doubleheader not matter for you. So that's what I want to talk about next. What do the Mets do? How do they respond to this situation? We'll get to all of that in just a minute. First, though, another word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Mets is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games. It's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly want to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities, and maybe you want to check out Atlanta on a Monday. Maybe you want to see a doubleheader. Check that out. Who knows? The right state can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Or you know what? Maybe the Mets get eliminated, and you just want to relax somewhere. You want to take a vacation. Between hotels, bed and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. The right state can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you get updates from me anytime news breaks from the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You can also take part in our Locked On Mets sign photo giveaways and you get the lineup graphic sent to your phone each day so you know the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be a Locked On Mets insider, find the link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. All right, so let's talk about the road ahead for the Mets. Now you just have to focus on Milwaukee first and foremost. And the good thing is the Brewers, if I'm not mistaken, let me make sure I'm 100% right here. I don't think that they, at this point, can get a playoff bye. And if they could, it's only via tiebreaker, and one win by the Phillies or the Dodgers would knock them out of it. But I'm pretty sure that's off the table for the Brewers. So the Brewers basically have nothing left to play for this season. So that is a good thing. That does not mean that they're just going to phone it in. They're playing games in front of their home crowd. The guys that are in the lineup, they're going to have some pride. They're going to want to win that game or those games. So I can't say, oh, yeah, the Mets are going to sweep this series easily. They do have a better chance at sweeping it, considering the fact that the Brewers aren't going to have that back against the wall mentality. But they're going to look at the Mets as a team that they might face in the wild card round, knock them out early. So I don't think it's as easy as it might seem on the surface. What do the Mets do as far as their pitching is concerned? You just got to win the game in front of you. So Sean Manaea is going to pitch on Friday. They haven't announced it, but I'm telling you, he's going to pitch. They want to make sure they win that game. They want to make sure they win every game. But what this also does for the Mets, earlier you pitch Sean Manaea, quicker he can go again. And if the NL wildcard round is not pushed back, which I'm telling you, Major League Baseball, push it back a day. Please, please. Think about the scenario where the Diamondbacks run the table and they still get screwed because the Mets are sitting at 90 wins. The Braves are at 88. They have to play the doubleheader. And again, the consequences, if the Braves end up in, well, all of a sudden the 91 win Diamondbacks are the 5th seed and they got to fly to San Diego. But, oh, wait a minute. Actually, the Mets win the first game. All right, now let's fly to Milwaukee. You have 3 teams in absolute limbo. Yeah, it's great for the Padres or the Dodgers, whoever's in that spot, and it's great for the Brewers. For these other teams, it's really bad, and it's not their fault that the weather happened. It's your fault, Major League Baseball, for not stepping in and forcing the Braves to not be stupid and move that series or play more games. I digress. This shouldn't still be getting me so upset. I'm recording this hours and hours after all this went down. But the more that you think about all these ridiculous scenarios that we had to lay out, the more frustrating it gets. Getting back to why you start Sean Manaea on Friday, this would have him available to pitch on Wednesday, which right now would be game 2 of a wild card round. So it ensures that you get Sean Manaea a game pitch in that series, because if you lose the first 2 games, you're out. So if you pitch Sean Manaea on Saturday and he can't go until Thursday, you could lose the first 2 games of the wild card round because you're exhausted, and now Manaea can't go. So that's why Manaea will pitch on Friday. I'd imagine they'll go with David Peterson still on Saturday. That would set Peterson up to pitch the final game of a wild card round. Now, if you want to, instead, you could go with Jose Quintana, save David Peterson to potentially face the Braves in that doubleheader if it matters, or to be good to go for the earlier games of the wild card round. But I think that more comes into play for the final game. What I think is going to happen is I think they will stick with, unless there's some great matchup where Jose Quintana has a really good chance against the Brewers in particular, I think they're just going to stick with status quo, pitch your best guys, the guys you have the most faith in. They were going to pitch David Peterson on Thursday against the Braves, so I think they'll stick with that. Severino's the one question mark. Let's just say the Mets win the first 2 games and the Braves lose the first 2 games. So now either a Mets win or a Braves loss will, clinch it for the Mets on Sunday. If you wanted to, then you could sort of save Severino for the first game of the wild card round, or to win a game against the Braves to clinch. So you're saving him for more of a must-win situation, and you can go to Quintana in that final game, and hopefully you win it. And then even if you have to play the doubleheader for the Mets or for the Braves and Diamondbacks' sake, you can still go Severino to Manaea to Peterson in the wild card round. A lot of tough choices. I'm sure the Mets are going to take this game by game by game. All right, now let's just talk about if you end up in a doubleheader that matters for your wild card life and you have pitched your 3 main guys. Well, the good thing for the Mets is they have Jose Quintana and they have Tyler McGill that could go in that doubleheader, and obviously all the arms in their bullpen. If it's do or die, it's do or die. The problem, the Braves will have Spencer Schwellenbach ready to go for that doubleheader, which really hurts because he has just carved up the Mets. Now, they won't have Chris Sale, they won't have Max Fried, but Spencer Schwellenbach is a lot better than anything the Mets are going to throw out there. So Schwellenbach, game 1 of a doubleheader, the Braves have a great chance of winning that. If you're in the position where you have to win one of the 2 games, now I guess you're holding Quintana for the second one, but now your life is on the line with Jose Quintana pitching in Atlanta. I don't love the Mets' chances. So that's why hopefully the Mets can just handle their own business, and hopefully the Diamondbacks and the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, if the Mets win, the Brewers will lose. Hopefully the Diamondbacks and the Braves lose over the weekend. And if it's not a moot point entirely where you don't have to play a doubleheader, at least it won't matter for the Mets. And in that case scenario, you wonder, all right, the Mets have to play this doubleheader that means nothing to them. What do they do? How do they get through it pitching-wise? For all I care, have Eddie Alvarez pitch both games of the doubleheader and throw 400 pitches. It doesn't matter. Keep your best arms ready for the playoffs. And I'm not going to do that. And honestly, if the Mets are a little bit pissed off on how the situation went, and let's just say they're sitting at, they sweep. So they're at 90 wins. And the Diamondbacks are at 90 wins as well. And the Braves are at 88. So the only scenario that can happen is either it's Mets Braves or it's Mets Diamondbacks. Maybe the Mets just say, screw it. And they throw Tyler McGill and they try to beat him and knock the Braves out because they're pissed off that this whole situation happened. I'm sure that whoever's in the lineup for that doubleheader, even if it doesn't matter, is going to be trying to knock the Braves out. With that said, if the games don't matter, you really shouldn't burn any of the pitchers that you could use in the wild card round. What the Mets could do is they could get super creative with their roster. They could DFA Alex Young, or they could, actually what they would probably do is they would move Daniel Nunez and Christian Scott to the 60-day IL, opening up two 40-man roster spots. They could option Alex Young and Huascar Braziban. And then if they wanted to, they could add Mike Vassell and Joey Lucchesi or whoever they wanted to their roster, some starting pitcher that's in their organization in some capacity that they can get to Atlanta and have those guys pitch the games. So how is that for the integrity of competition, Major League Baseball? And I guess from the Braves perspective, that's why you do what they did. Because the Mets can handle their own business, can clinch the spot for themselves, and now the Braves play a Mets team that doesn't want to be there, and they can just weasel their way into the playoffs. It's really frustrating how this all went down because ultimately the Braves did the best thing for the Braves. And as much as that's annoying that the best thing for them was to screw everybody else involved, that's their prerogative. If it helps them get into the playoffs, they did the right thing. The Atlanta Braves make the playoffs and win the World Series, and they got in on the back of facing Mike Vassell and Joey Lucchesi in a doubleheader instead of facing David Peterson and Sean Manaea in a doubleheader on, or wouldn't have been a doubleheader, but regardless, facing Quintana and Peterson, whatever it would have been, okay? They did the right thing for them. But Major League Baseball is to blame here because Major League Baseball has the right to step in and say, this is really not what we should do. We have to make sure baseball games are played so it doesn't come to a doubleheader in the one travel day between the end of the season and the wild card round. And I am looking right at Major League Baseball now and say, make it right. Push the National League side of the wild card round back a day. I know there's TV partners. I know there's a lot that goes into it. Games will still get played. There will still be eyeballs on them. Do the right thing. Push that wild card round back for whoever makes it. All right. That will be all for today's show. On tomorrow's show, we got a series to preview. I also want to talk about the Arizona Fall League. We got some exciting news there. I'll save it for tomorrow's show because I've already taken up enough of your time today about all of this drama. And you know what? The last thing I'll actually say, though, to close out the show. The New York Mets have been a resilient bunch all year. This has been an unforgettable season, and I personally believe in that group, and I think that group going through this experience, these trials, these tribulations, having to be, holed up together in hotels for these days, it's just bonding that group closer, and I hope and believe they're going to come out and they are going to give everything they have, and they're going to beat up on the Brewers this weekend, put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. And however they are inconvenienced, this might still be a thing that's just an ultimate rally cry that gives this team an even bigger chip on their shoulder, the one they've been playing with for 4 months. This is not a team that does well as front runners. This is a team that does well as the underdog. And I think this sort of sets up a situation where the New York Mets are underdogs the rest of the way. And you know what? Don't count out an underdog. Maybe this is, in a weird way, a very perverse way, what this team needed to get over the hump. And whether that's just by beating the Brewers or eventually smacking the Braves in the mouth on Monday, maybe this gets them to a point where they don't even just make the playoffs, where they go on a deep run. That's what we can all hope for. Again, though, that's going to be all for the show today. I appreciate all of you who tuned in. Make sure you follow, rate, review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter or X at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listen or your first watch every day. Now, after your second watch, head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel that covers everything in the world of sports, talking about Locked On Sports Today. With our local hosts from each team, league-wide hosts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.